Hey you guys, welcome back to my garden here in Western Oregon, Zone 8B. I was walking around this morning kind of doing my typical morning routine of watering, letting some things slow drip water, and then in the process just kind of cutting things back and cleaning things up that needed some attention, which is how I get a lot of my maintenance done in my garden as I'm watering, or I'm just kind of walking around. I'm just kind of generally cutting things back, deadheading, things like that. So that's why I don't show a ton of that going on in my garden, but it definitely is getting done every day to some extent. But I came to this spot behind me and I noticed it actually really needs a little bit more work. And I also have a plant that I want to plant into this space after kind of assessing how the space is doing. And so I thought, well, might as well just bring you guys along for this little project of cleaning up this area. It's so satisfying to do. And this time of the year, these areas are just seeming like they're popping up more and more, and it feels really good to tackle them. So let me just show you this space and I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're going to do and then we'll tackle it. All right, so we are down here in, I guess, I don't really know what I call this bed. It's kind of our slanty, I don't know, slanty front bed. It's just off of our front lawn and it leads us down to this little path along here, a little bit of grass, and then the lower gardens. So this area, as you can see, there's a lot of plants that are just really kind of browning out. Their foliage is turning brown. This stuff right in here, this is all columbine. And I cut it back already once this year, and I don't know if I didn't cut this stuff back all the way, so it's browned out, and then the green stuff next to it is stuff that had flushed back after I cut back. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but I'm definitely going to be cutting those out. Also cutting back the nepeta that's over here. It's shrouding a little bit into this rose that needs a little bit of deadheading. And as you look up here, there's a veronica that needs deadheading. This butterfly bush could definitely use some deadheading. And then over here on this area, we have another nepeta that needs to be cut back. I have a dead hydrangea. That is where we're going to plant in something new and beautiful that I think will prefer this spot more than a hydrangea would, just because it can handle a little bit less water than the hydrangea needs. I think I'm also going to cut back this basket of gold alyssum. It's spilling over the side and I think I can cut it back really hard. It'll still come back next year, but it's just looking kind of mangy. And then coming along here, I have some daylilies that are not looking the best. So I'm just going to be kind of cutting back anything that has a primarily brown cast to it. I'll be trimming up, deadheading rather, this Pugster blue butterfly bush. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that color, and these blooms are so thick on it. It's really striking, I think. And then coming down here is another part that I want to tackle today while we're down here. I want to edge this walkway, get it a little bit more redefined. There is some edging in here. I think it's just kind of really sunk down over time as the wood chips basically slough down towards it. It's just unfortunately the nature of our property here. We're on a hillside and everything with gravity just kind of wants to eventually slough off this way. So that's why I have a lot of retaining walls in here with rocks and stuff that are trying to hold it back, but none of this is professionally done. It's all just done by me. So I just kind of do what I can. And what I can do today is re-edge this pathway so that it looks a lot prettier as it's going towards the new bed that we've just started putting in recently. So I do have some extra hog fuel that I think I'll probably be able to bring up and cover that up with, as we get it hopefully a little bit tidier looking. So I think that will definitely help that area. Of course, there's some weeds that need to be pulled. You can see there's a wild carrot there and just some other weeds growing up places that they don't need to be. And then this is the beautiful plant that we are going to plant in space of that where the hydrangea was. So a Lo and Behold ruby chip. We have lots of the Lo and Behold series in this garden because they just generally stay pretty nice and small. You can see 2.5 feet tall and wide. They are seedless, so they don't spread, which is great here in Oregon because we are not allowed to plant the butterfly bush that will go to seed because they're considered invasive here. So consequently, if they're invasive here, obviously that means that butterfly bush do well for us in Western Oregon. So these really tend to do well. I do not have a ruby. Here are some of the microchip blue. These also need to be deadheaded. They don't need to be deadheaded in order to keep blooming, but aesthetically speaking, they could definitely use it. So we're gonna put that ruby chip right there, like I said, where the hydrangea is. And I think that is a much better choice. And I love the color of the ruby next to that barberry, which I should also mention, barberries, on the contrast of butterfly bush, they are not invasive here. So I have a lot of barberries in my gardens, and they're not invasive. So that's one kind of continuous element that I have throughout my beds, as you've probably noticed if you've been here for even a minute, that I have barberries. So the color of that foliage on the barberry, I think, looks beautiful with the ruby color of this buddleia. So I'm just gonna get started on cleaning up the beds first, and then I think I'll move into doing the edging, and we'll do the planting last, because I feel like that always is a nice way to end a cleanup project if you have something to plant in, just kind of the sweet cherry on top of putting in something really pretty in a newly cleaned up space. So let's just get after it and get this job done and get this space looking a lot prettier. it would be good to just take a break and give just a little bit of an update before we move on to the edging and the planting and stuff like that. So we're probably about halfway done with this project, just really of cleaning up the beds. It's a never ending, I mean, this really could be a never ending project, honestly. I could nitpick and pick up every single little brown leaf, cut off every little spent stem. I mean, I could get kind of carried away with this and just not stop all day and also just continue on through all the beds. But I had to focus, stop myself, just focus on this little area here. And I think it looks a lot better. All right, so I'm not even sure honestly where we started at, but we did a lot of work through here. So you can see cutting back the nepeta and some that had seeded itself down here, cut that back a little bit. I also decided as time went on to come down here and cut back some of the basket of gold alyssum that has been spilling over into the pathway. I run over it every time I come through here with the garden cart, so I figured I might as well just cut it back and make it look a little bit tidier, and also hopefully that will encourage it to, you know, flush out with some new growth. So there was a lot of stuff up here that I kind of just pulled out, lots of the columbine that I cut hard. Also right up here there was a daylily that was really full of grass, and I grabbed one big chunk of the grass and pulled it out, and out came some of the daylily. And that's fine. I mean, I think that daylily probably needed to be divided anyways, honestly. So hopefully you can see there's just kind of two chunks right there now. And daylilies are tough for me. I usually only kind of really enjoy them early in spring. They push out beautiful new fresh growth. So I leave them in the garden, but this time of the year, I generally always just go ahead and cut them back pretty hard. So also just lightly deadheaded that rose, and the big part I feel like right was in here, taking after these columbine, cutting them back. I decided probably not to come back and just do the same to this chunk right here, but I don't know. I left it for whatever reason, and then kind of just cleaned up this way also. As I was going through, I was finding, you know, foxglove growing here and there, and just decided, you know, if it's not in a spot where I'm going to want a large plant growing, I might as well just pull it out. Otherwise, it's basically a weed. So that was kind of the situation all throughout this area. Also cut back this nepeta and this daylily right here really hard. Just cleaned up this whole space. This was very full of columbine and the daylily and then the basket of gold alyssum. And I think that made a really big impact in this spot. And then also just kind of will really let the butterfly bush shine once it's planted in right there. So that spot I feel really refreshed for. I feel like I can breathe better for that spot. So this definitely looks a lot better. Got off some of the dead spent blooms off of the buddleia. I only kind of went after the ones that were really brown. There were some that were still, you know, they're done blooming, but they're still a little bit purpley. So left those ones there. And then over here in this area, oh, I need to come back over here and rake and blow a little bit. I didn't quite get over to this side with that. But these nepeta right up here, they are super old. They were some of the very first plants that I planted in this garden. So they're getting quite spindly. They've also kind of seeded themselves around, so there's several little plants right up in there. Just cut those back pretty hard, and they'll probably flush out new growth once we start to get some rain again. But for now, they just look a little bit cleaned up and not overtaking these steps here. I'm pressing up against the sedum that's right in front of those. Also deadheaded this rose a little bit, and then came in here. You can see through this spot, it was quite overgrown with just perennials. There was I can't ever remember what this perennial is called, but it was growing out quite far. There was a lot of snow in summer that had really kind of browned out and was pretty spent. So I just kind of pulled that back. Also some more basket of gold alyssum that was going through here. There was a veronica that needed to be deadheaded, as well as that salvia that's right there, and then another columbine, which left a spot right up in that garden that I think I have the perfect thing to plant right there. I think it'll look really pretty. So you can see that this spirea here is getting a bunch of new growth, which is exciting. We trimmed that back not too long ago, and it's pushing out all sorts of growth. This right here is a lo and behold purple haze, and it's going to start blooming here pretty soon, and I'm really excited about it because I don't think it bloomed a ton last year. You can see the buds. It's really a late to bloom shrub. So I'm excited to see what it does. But even still, as it's not blooming, it's still quite pretty and makes quite a statement in this spot. So has a bit of a different habit, a little bit larger, leaves than the lo and behold ruby chip over there. But yeah, very pretty, and I'm excited to see that one bloom. So this whole area along here, I feel like looks a lot better. Like I said, I feel like I can breathe a little bit better. Down here, kind of more of the same. Took after some daylilies that were under there, and also cut back a little bit on these pink cashmere superbena that they didn't bloom very much. I think they were just too shrouded by all the foxglove and stuff that has been here all throughout the season, but the plants are still green and looking okay. So I just cut those back, and hopefully they'll maybe even flush out with some new blooms. So now it's time to deal with the edging here on this pathway. There is a piece of plastic edging in there, but it's just really low down. So unfortunately, I think as like molehills have pushed up and the grass has kind of grown up a little bit, the edging has gotten pretty much covered up. So it's not exactly doing its job as far as making the edge look nice and clean. So I'm gonna have to kind of dig around in there and see if I can rectify that. But I'm also just gonna come through and weed whack some dandelions down really quick, because I think, as I've said before, it's hard for me to work too much in an area that has dandelions going on. So I'm gonna weed whack that really quick, and then we're gonna start on the pathway here and getting the grass edged. All right. Well, since we were going for improvement and not perfection, which is basically what I go for all the time in my garden, is just to improve the space, never striving for perfection, because I know that that's like totally impossible for me as an amateur. So I think this is an improvement for sure. It was kind of hard to edge down here just because there was nothing as a barrier to put in, and this is quite a slope. I don't know if that transpires on the screen, but there is the edging, like I showed you, out right there, and it's doing an okay job. I was just able to rake back the mulch and also some dirt, kind of spread that out and just re-expose the edge basically. It's also hard to have a clear edge when the stuff over here on the right is not thick, lush grass. It's basically a lot of weeds and some grass mixed in, but still, again, it looks a lot better. I show you from this direction because my goal was for it to look a lot cleaner and more defined as we move our eye down towards the new bed that we're putting in, and I think it definitely does that. So you may have noticed just a few rocks piled over here. I'm kind of working on a collection to put in this area and to build up a little bit of a retaining wall, because this area right here, this mulch path is even slantier than what I'm currently working on, and so I'd really like to lift up that edge so that I stop losing the mulch basically down into the grass. So I just kind of drove around the property today and on the four-wheeler and picked up some rocks, but I have a long ways to go on that project. So I could, again, like I said, just same with picking up all the little dried bits and everything, I could continue to work on this and try to get it to be as best as I possibly can. But honestly, I want to get planting this guy into the ground, as well as the other plant that I'm thinking of putting in up on the top area, and just to button up this project for the day. So I'm gonna go grab my auger, and I'm gonna also grab, I have down here the land and sea compost. I'm gonna kind of mix into this area, and we are gonna get this beautiful, lo and behold, ruby chip into the ground. Isn't that just beautiful? I feel like that was just kind of made for that spot. Now, the only thing I'm concerned about a little bit is if the dogs decide to cut that corner, because butterfly bush are a little bit fragile in the stems, so they can break fairly easily. But anyway, I think it'll be just fine, especially now that all those plants are cleared out. It'll be a cleaner way for the dogs just to follow the path down. I think that'll be just fine. So anyway, super glad to have this in the ground. And unfortunately, that hydrangea actually looked like it was still alive. It had some green in it, but still dug that out, put this one in. And I think honestly, I've purchased a lot of butterfly bush in my life, and this is probably the most beautiful one in the can. It was so full and blooming beautifully. They must have just deadheaded it because there's literally like one on there that I should deadhead. And when I saw it at Al's garden center recently, I knew I had to scoop it up. I could not resist. It was just absolutely beautiful. So let's go grab the other plant that I was thinking to put into this space now that we cleaned out some of the other perennials that were up here on the top garden, and we'll get that one planted too. And the snow country dahlia has found a place in the garden, and I think it looks wonderful there. It's fun to have something with a little bit of height, a little bit of different structure than everything else around it. And I just think that the dahlia, dinner plate dahlia right there, is going to be striking. And hopefully hopefully it's happy there. Hopefully I can keep it nicely watered. I got this space not all watered in before I even planted the dahlia because this spot was super dry. It was really hard to dig with the auger. I don't have any drip, I guess, going back to that spot. I have it just kind of weaved through the front of the bed, and so that particular spot was quite dry. So now it's thoroughly soaked, and getting this girl off to a good start, I think, in this bed. And I also wanted to show you guys this super bina here. This I planted last year in this container and cut it all the way back, planted in this boxwood. Didn't think that this guy survived, but I just left it because I didn't want to mess with the root ball, and it wasn't in the way of the boxwood. And it is just beautiful. It is just growing and looks so gorgeous, I think, with the Mini Vista Indigo. I just love that color combination. And then with the pop of white there, I'm just really loving this combination. And that is going to do it for this video and this project out here today. It's taken a little bit all throughout kind of the day, but it just feels really good, obviously, to get another space cleaned up. The one we worked on last time was kind of out of sight, out of mind, which led to its neglect. But this spot that we worked on today is front and center, right at the entry basically of the garden. So it needed to be done and it looks so much better. I'm really happy to have the little butterfly bush and then obviously a place for that beautiful dahlia in the garden. Really happy with both of those additions. Anytime you can add in something beautifully blooming at the beginning of August is definitely a bonus. So I'm just gonna sit here in the shade for a little bit and drink some iced coffee and cool off and then go figure out what I'm gonna do with the rest of my day. So thank you for hanging out with me while I did this project, this cleanup project and the planting project. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.